Today, Prime Minister Netanyahu gave another very powerful speech in the House of Lies itself in the United Nations, the largest organization which is the greatest support of terror around the world. And ironically, while he was speaking, Israel bombed deep in Beirut, and we are still waiting for the confirmation that they killed the head of the snake, Hassan Nasrallah. I'd like to just pick out a few clips from Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech and bring out some basic points. The first is that he did something critically important, and that is he said, "I am here to speak the truth." He repeats quite often how the Lubavitch Rebbe, the spiritual leader of the Jewish people, told him, I believe it was in 1984, that you're going, when he was the ambassador to the UN, I believe, from Israel, and he said, the Lubavitch Rebbe told him, you're going into a house of lies, light a candle, and reveal truth. And it's exactly how he started his speech today, and he started by quoting the Torah, the Bible, where we are given a choice between good and bad, life and death. And he began with the words of God. Let's watch this first clip.
I decided to come here to speak for my people, to speak for my country, to speak for the truth. And here's the truth. Israel seeks peace. Israel yearns for peace. Israel has made peace and will make peace again. Yet we face savage enemies who seek our annihilation, and we must defend ourselves against these savage murderers. Our enemies seek not only to destroy us, they seek to destroy our common civilization and return all of us to a dark age of tyranny and terror. When I spoke here last year, I said we faced the same timeless choice that Moses put before the people of Israel thousands of years ago. As we were about to enter the Promised Land, Moses told us that our actions will determine whether we bequeath to future generations a blessing or a curse. And that is the choice we face today. The curse of Iran's unremitting aggression, or the blessing of a historic reconciliation between Arab and Jew. In the days that followed that speech, the blessing I spoke of came into sharper focus. A normalization deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel seemed closer than ever. But then came the curse of October 7th. Thousands of Iranian-backed Hamas terrorists from Gaza burst into Israel in pickup trucks, on motorcycles, and they committed unimaginable atrocities. They savagely murdered 1,200 people. They raped and mutilated women. They beheaded men. They burned babies alive. They burnt entire families alive, babies, children, parents, grandparents, in scenes reminiscent of the Nazi Holocaust. Hamas kidnapped 251 people from dozens of different countries, dragging them into the dungeons of Gaza. Israel has brought home 154 of these hostages, including 117 who returned alive. I want to assure you, we will not rest until the remaining hostages are brought home too. And some of their family members are here with us today. I ask you to stand up.
Here we see that Prime Minister Netanyahu is very clear about there are blessings and there are curses. Are you going to be on the side of the blessings or the curses? We're going to see him emphasize this very soon. But what he does, which he has done so brilliantly, is he speaks very, very simply and clearly. His message is always so easy to understand. And here he picks up visuals, which he's done by many of his speeches in the UN, which are brilliant because they are just very simple to grasp. And he gives a vision of what the world could look like if the world would seek peace like Israel absolutely wants, but those surrounding them don't, most of those surrounding them don't want. And here he's going to create a very clear distinction between those in the Middle East who do have a vision for what the Middle East can look like, and those who are actually trying to destroy it, those who are the blessing and those who are the curse. Let's watch this clip.
Defends itself against Iran in the Seven Front War. The line separating the blessing and the curse it shows Israel and its Arab partners forming a land bridge connecting Asia and Europe between the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. Across this bridge, we will lay rail lines, energy pipelines, fiber optic cables, and this will serve the betterment of 2 billion people. Now look at this second map. It's a map. Look at the second map. It's a map of a curse. It's a map of an arc of terror that Iran has created and imposed from the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean. Iran's malignant arc has shut down international waterways. It cuts off trade. It destroys millions, destroys nations from within, and inflicts misery on millions. On the one hand, a bright blessing, a future of hope. On the other hand, a dark future of despair. And if you think this dark map is only a curse for Israel, if you think that, then you should think again. Because Iran's aggression, if it's not checked, will endanger every single country in the Middle East and many, many countries in the rest of the world.
He's very clear that there is a blessing and there is a curse, and we have a choice between whether we want to be the part of the blessing or the curse. Let's watch this.
Because Iran seeks to impose its radicalism well beyond the Middle East. That's why it funds terror networks on 5 continents. That's why it builds ballistic missiles for nuclear warheads to threaten the entire world. For too long, the world has appeased Iran. It turns a blind eye to its internal repression. It turns a blind eye to its external aggression. Well, that appeasement must end, and that appeasement must end now. Ladies and gentlemen, this war can come to an end now. All that has to happen is for Hamas to surrender, lay down its arms, and release all the hostages.
Here he says something that's very important that the world really needs to hear, and that is that this war can end. The only one keeping this war going is not Israel. It's the perpetrators themselves who will not back off from what they started. All they have to do is lay down their arms, give back the hostages, and the war is over. Lebanon. All Lebanon has to do is say, we will never shoot a rocket into Israel again. Over 8,000 rockets. I just got an email from someone this past week who told me, you're talking about all the people who are being killed? Do you know that we don't have a single night's sleep in the north because of the thousands and thousands of rockets that fly into our country every single day? They can't live normal lives. 8,000. And so Prime Minister Netanyahu says exactly what he needs to say. We will not stop until the Hezbollah has been stopped. Let's watch this.
But if they don't, we will fight until we achieve victory, total victory. There is no substitute for it. Israel must also defeat Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah is the quintessential terror organization in the world today. It has tentacles that span in all continents. It has murdered more Americans and more Frenchmen than any group except bin Laden. It's murdered the citizens of many countries represented in this room. and it has attacked Israel viciously over the last 20 years, in the last year, completely unprovoked. A day after the Hamas massacre, on October 7th, Hezbollah began attacks against Israel, which forced more than 60,000 Israelis on our northern border to leave their homes, becoming refugees in their own land. Hezbollah turned vibrant towns in the north of Israel into ghost towns. So I want you to think about this in equivalent American terms. Just imagine if terrorists turned El Paso and San Diego into ghost towns. Then ask yourself, how long would the American government tolerate that? A day? A week? A month? I doubt they tolerate it even for a single day.
He brings out the double standard that the world speaks with. No country would tolerate for a single day. America would go in there bombing. Any country would and should. And that's all that Israel is doing after waiting 11 months and having over 8,000 rockets shot onto their citizens, with close to 100,000 citizens being removed from their homes. Then he makes a fantastic point where he addresses Mahmoud Abbas, who everyone seems to be ignoring right now, head of the Palestinian Authority, and his unbelievable corruption, calling out his lies. Let's watch this.
One thing is undeniable. There is definitely nothing new at the United Nations. Take it from me. I first spoke from this podium as Israel's ambassador to the UN in 1984. That's exactly 40 years ago. And in my maiden speech here, I think it's the same podium, by the way. In my maiden speech here, I spoke against a proposal to expel Israel from this body. 4 decades later, I find myself defending Israel against that same preposterous proposal. And who's leading the charge this time? Not Hamas, but Abbas, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. This is the man who claims he wants peace with Israel. Yet he still refuses to condemn the horrific massacre of October 7th. He's still paying hundreds of millions to terrorists who murder Israelis and Americans. It's called pay for slay. The more you murder, the more you get paid. And he still wages unremitting diplomatic warfare against Israel's right to exist and against Israel's right to defend itself. And by the way, they amount to the same thing. Because if you can't defend yourself, you can't exist. Not in our neighborhood, certainly, and maybe not in yours.
Beautiful and very clear point he brings out, and he's calling out all of the lies. As the Lubavitcher Rebbe told him, when you're in darkness, a house of darkness, all you have to do is light a candle and it brightens the room. He's just shining the light that the entire UN is unwilling to expose and say. And it's so simple and easy. It's right there. He has a pay to slay effort that he is supporting and funding, Mahmoud Abbas in the Palestinian Authority. And they're talking about a two-state solution with such people. And lastly, and so beautifully and inspiringly, he reminds the world of what we know. The Jewish people are an eternal people. God says it in the Torah. Our history has demonstrated it. It will continue to demonstrate it. We never want war. We only want peace. And we also know that anyone that attacks the Jewish people will ultimately not be successful because God stands with us. We are the eternal people. Let's watch this conclusion to his powerful ending to his speech.
Netzach Yisrael lo yishaker. The eternity of Israel will not falter. In the Jewish people's epic journey from antiquity, in our odyssey through the tempests and upheavals of modern times, that ancient promise has always been kept, and it will hold true for all time. To borrow a great poet's phrase, Israel will not go gently into that good night. We will never need to rage against the dying of the light, because the torch of Israel will forever shine bright. To the people of Israel and to the soldiers of Israel, I say, be strong and of good courage. חזקו ואמצו ואל תיראו מפניהם, כי אדוני אלוהיך הוא ההולך עמך, לא ירפך ולא יעזבך. Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live, now, tomorrow, forever. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, and courageous talk by Prime Minister Netanyahu, words that must be said, and that anyone who stands for morality and truth cannot just stand with people because they are a victim. They are not a victim, they are perpetrators. They are perpetrators, and that is why they're finding themselves in this situation. The Jewish people are not an aggressive people, and we live in peace with anyone that is willing to live in peace with us. And if they don't, finally, we are standing up and saying that we will not let our innocent lives spill blood. Our innocent lives, or our innocent people's blood be spilled for free. We will fight back and stop those who are perpetrating murder against the Jewish people. Bravo to Prime Minister Netanyahu.